about that first spiritual experience they'd like to share with us? Or to be kind enough to share with us? Very good. Speak up.
That's been going on.
Thank you. How you doing, good chat?
I'm doing very well. Hope you got that.
Okay, let me ask you, did you get that play all night button back on the classes?
I sent you another playlist. That's what it is. I don't know what happened to that other playlist that you sent, but I just made a new playlist. That's all you got to do. Make a new playlist with the videos you want, and then it'll play.
Okay, another playlist that has it on there, though, right?
Yeah, I sent it to you. I sent it to you earlier.
All right. I just hope we can figure out what kind of devil is doing that. Okay, go ahead. You said you had...
I just wanted to say that nowadays I feel that my higher self is coming more into the fore.
Yes.
As you say, because, for instance, there's certain situations, where it just seems like another part of me is taking over in certain instances where it might seem like I made a wrong decision, but it ended up being the right decision, or I end up going the wrong way, but it ended up being the right way, like I'm just being guided right all the time, and I feel protected and just very strong and confident in decisions and in daily activities and interactions. And then it also, the law of attraction, I feel, is working a lot more heavily right now.
Very good.
Even with the people that are coming into my life. Like I said, I really feel like I'm in a 5D, even based off the people I'm coming across. Even the white folks I come across, I call them 5D white people. Very positive and just.
Well, you know what? I'm gonna tell you the truth. They're getting that from you. When people pick up positive energy, wherever attention goes, energy flows. If you're sending out good vibrations and good energy, that's what comes back. That's the only thing gonna come back. But people that receive negative energy all the time, whether they know it or not, they're sending out a lot of negative energy.
Yeah, exactly. And expressing it.
Yeah.
I definitely do my best to not express any negative energy and just make what I know to be true shine. Like for instance, I met an older European guy from Bulgaria, and we're actually pretty good friends. And we went out on the open deck one day, and I told him, I like to stargaze, and he was like, man, I'm shocked, because we ended up having a conversation about the stars and our consciousness being elsewhere.
Why didn't you call me so I could do something for you?
It's not that easy to just call like that. I gotta do a lot of things to get on a call,
Yeah.
I gotta put money on a card and buy internet and buy minutes and all of that, so it's not that easy to just call. But meeting people like that, having these conversations that I never had before. People talking about we're in a new dimension, and a lot of uplifting, positive, and conscious, spiritual,
reassuring things.
People. Right.
Well, that's wonderful, and I love that message. I really do appreciate that message. And I thank your soul. All right, who else has a spiritual experience they want to share? Is the brother Will here?
I have one.
Okay, very good, son.
Yes, sir, this is Ivory. Recently, I've been running into like a lot of, what is it called, synchronicities. And not just like numbers and like actions and the intuition. Like somebody saying I'm finna call them, or they just like, I just thought about you, and then calling them, and then it happens multiple times back to back with multiple people. Everybody's saying the same thing. Everyone's like, every time I come around, weird things happen that never happened before. Or
let us have an example.
Like, we'll be having a conversation, and the alarm that doesn't work will start working.
And what that doesn't work starts. Okay. All right.
Like they don't know why it started working, but it just starts to work after a while. And what we were talking about was something like powerful.
Yeah, that's powerful because there's positive energy that you're putting out, and you are shifting. What we all have to remember and be cognizant of is that the dimensional shift is merely a shift in consciousness. And you have to remember that the things you look at will never change until you change the way that you look at things. And if it's not all the way right, it's not right at all. Sayings of Dr. Malachi Z. York. Okay, now the brother Will, are you here?
No, he's not here tonight, Messiah.
Well, he wanted me to do a special program for him.
He said he's prepping to leave for Maryland.
Okay.
Thursday. I don't know what they got to do with not joining class tonight, but
okay.
That's what he told me.
Okay. Yeah. I hope he listens to that class you sent him, the last class, because that class
right too.
Huh?
I said I hope he did too. That was a powerful class.
Yes, it was. And I think I'm going to start and continue off where we left off if somebody can find out where we were at. All of you all that have the Lost Book of Enki, that's where we need to be right now tonight. And if you don't have the book, you just Google the Lost Book of Enki, E-N-K-I, by Zachariah Sitchin, PDF, and you'll have it. I sent the link out to you all more than once, months ago. The free download. Now, I'll tell you why it's so important that we understand this is a foundational groundwork. It's because we want to go to the beginning of creation and how all this came about. That history that supersedes what the Canaanites are trying to push into you, like drug dealers, as an opiate to control the masses. They call it religion. The reality of it is that the Elohim, the Annunaki, are the ones that seeded this planet with people and everything else hundreds of thousands of years ago. And that there's been extraterrestrials coming back and forth. They are the progenitors of the human race. In the Bible, what it says, openly in Genesis, let us create man in our image and in our likeness. They're referencing the Anunnaki, an Elohim, a group of extraterrestrial beings. And to let us, plurality, the duality, rather than the singularity of God. Rahu back. Okay, anybody else have a spiritual experience, or what's that first question?
Right. Hey, Rahu back.
Hey, where you at there? Lazy, bon ton roulé.
Hey, that's right.
Yeah, that's right, man. I'm glad to hear your voice, man.
I hear you. All right.
Okay.
Somebody had a question. They can go first. I had a small question, but they can go first. So I was about to ask a question.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay, when I was in class, last time, I remember I heard you say the Most High, and knew the Most High, and knew the Most High.
The heavenly one, right?
I thought the Most High was Raoult. Yeah.
That's right. But let me be clear. Anu is the Most High God as a deity. Are you following me?
Okay.
But Fa'ud is absolute singularity, divine love, the ultimate reality that appointed Anu as the Most High. And Anu, you have to understand, is the Most High of many galaxies, not of all existence. The Most High deity is Amun-Rayay over the whole creation, appointed by Fa'ud. Right. You're all talking in the background. Please start fix your phone. Brother that's talking in the background, please mute your phone. Yes. Fa'ud is the creator of creators.
All right. I understand. I understand now. I got you. All right.
Yeah.
That's what I want.
Because the Fa'ud is undefinable, but the best word you have in English linguistics would be all. A-L-L.
Right.
And the characteristics of that word is that all is all. You can't add to it, because where would you get it from? You can't take away, because where would you put it? It would have to go back into all or be from all, to or from all. All is all.
Right.
Now, when you say Tafa'ut or Al-Kalum in the definite article, you're talking about yourself as the all. You follow? There's a huge difference between the all and all.
Oh, yeah.
Because you can't point to all as an individual, because it would already be inclusive, you see, included in all. While you think about how to upgrade your question, I'd like to hear Cyber's question.
Yes, sir. While the Annunaki, the Elohim, are coming here, are there other groups of extraterrestrials coming here as well?
Of course.
That's the same.
The Pleiadians had a large part to do. The Pleiadians had a lot to do with this creation of Adam, or Adam project, and unfortunately, so did the Draconians. In fact, Malachi sent me a letter, but he had two constellations, two galaxies on the left of the pyramid, the Great Pyramid, and they were from the agreeable side of the Egyptians, which were, that was Orion and, and Sirius, I think. No, that was Orion and, I'll try to think of it. Let me see. But on the right hand side, it was the Pleiades and the Draco. Yeah, it was. Yes, on the left side it was Sirius and Orion. That's what went into the Egyptian people, and on the right side was Draco and the Pleiades. Now, how do you prove this, Amun? Do an archaeological search of them unearthing mummies in Egypt. And you find that in the royal family, especially in the Ramesses family, and Ramesses also indicates the beginning of religion, because Ramesses is actually Ra, Moses. Ra, Moses. Like Solomon is Saul, Amun, right? So all these are Egyptian deities, like Thoth. All right. But when you analyze the Egyptian mummies out of that family line, like Nefertiti and Tut, Amun, when you look at the back of their necks, they have scales on the back of their necks as an indicator of the draconian in their hair, in their bloodline. But I would like to point to the fact that when you look at the cartouches, but the murals on the wall, you can see that when you see one Egyptian, you see every Egyptian. They're all alike. Same color, same height, same shoulder width, waist size, hand length. They're so, with a man, there's something so specific that when they used to measure things like horses and they would say it's 12 hands high, they could say that with confidence because every hand was the same length of an adult, from palm to tip. Or when they measure things in feet, and they say it's about 12 foot, because every foot was the same length from heel to toe. That's how they call them the broad-eyed, brown-skinned race. But you also had a faction of the Egyptians that were jet black. You understand? Like in Put. Because the black and brown gene are exactly the same gene. All right, next question.
I have one.
I'll do my best.
Could you explain the four corners of the earth, the tetrahedron?
Oh, you mean the tetrahedron science?
Right. Like doesn't that like play a part in the four corners of the earth?
Yeah, well, Nibiru, the starship Planet X, or Big Red, was making its rounds on an elliptical orbit called the AIM. It's every 36,000 years. A Shar it also makes between Earth and Orion, and from Risk to Earth and back again is a AIM of 36,000 years, and a Shar is 25,000 years. Anyway, when it circumambulates on the elliptical orbit, it comes back through this galaxy to do what they call planetary shopping. And they were on a mission for planetary shopping looking for a much-needed element called Nub to them, N-U-B, that you all call gold. Because, as you know, there was war in heaven, and a very disagreeable being by the name of Tarnush went to the planet Pluto and mined some plutonium ore and constructed a nuclear device and let it go in the atmosphere over the planet Risk that ruptured their ozone layers, the abugas or atmospheres over the planet that serves as a protection from the damaging and harmful deadly rays of the ultraviolet sunlight from a tri-solar system, because there are three suns around our original planet. Well, they had to migrate away from this, and thereby they had a collective of Greys and even reptilians, and especially Riskians and Annunaki. Palladians, a lot of different species took part in building this massive fleet of Nibiru to assist in the migration. And many Riskians, many of us went underground to protect themselves from the harmful radiation. Well, on the trip in this galaxy around Earth, as Nibiru, which is outside the Kuiper belt, because Ilion is the 19th galaxy and the Milky Way is the 18th galaxy, right? And the planet Risk is not even in this dimension. So if you were to fly from Earth to the location of the planet Risk, you would not see it unless you vibrated on a different frequency, a higher frequency. But anyway, as they approached this plane, and this galaxy, some of the outer planets, you have Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. Speaking about Neptune and Uranus, there was an electrical storm on Neptune that created a bulge in it. And when it swelled up, the pilots on Nibiru did an evasive maneuver to keep from running into the planet. And when they veered off course, they reluctantly, well, the electrical storm was on Uranus. Anyway, it took them off track and they traveled at light speed. And so they accidentally hit a planet that used to be in the orbits around the sun. It was Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, and then there was another planet where the asteroid belt is now, as the Annunaki call it, the hammered bracelet. That was the planet Meldeck, and the Nibiru ran into Meldeck. And when it did, that collision broke their communications device or antenna off the top of Nibiru. And it rendered them helpless as far as transmitting hologramic images to anybody, including the Meldeckians that had a dual society, because the military lived underwater as the most disagreeable, and the surface dwellers were agreeable. But the collision destroyed and killed the surface dwellers, and the ones under the waters, they survived in the same way that a pregnant woman that falls downstairs many times, the fetus lives because of the cushion of the amniotic fluid or the water in the uterus. But they were, however, angry because they were sure that they were under attack by Nibiru. And their response was to send out a fleet of very large, and these crafts were very large in those days, the four winds, east, west, north, and south winds. And they went to attack the planet ship Nibiru that is very far more, much more sophisticated than any technology they had. And Nibiru enacted the tetrahedron science that trapped those four ships in the orbit around Nibiru, and their energy died, and they just started listing like dead crafts, circulate like moons around Nibiru, which is a very large craft, 10 times larger than Earth. But there are Nibiru craft out there 10 times larger than that one. And Nibiru kept speeding on its course to Earth, and to avoid Earth, it maneuvered. And Nibiru itself got out the line of collision, but two of those large crafts, planet-sized ships, they didn't get out the way, unfortunately, and one hit Earth, carved out the Grand Canyon, not the Snake River. It was that craft, and it still had a lot of speed behind it, and it jettisoned off Earth back into space. And the second craft hit Earth's center at the North Pole and bored a hole straight through the planet and carved out an inner sanctum. They call it Shambhala or Ak Arthur, or cities within the world, in the Earth. All right? Now, the planet Meldeck, as a result, it was torn in half in pieces. The larger aspect of it was knocked out of the orbit into space. They called it now the Lost Planet, or Planet X. And the parts of it that were fragmented remains orbiting between Mars and Jupiter as the asteroid belt, all in small chunks, of which Ceres is the largest piece. It's about the size of the state of Texas, about 500 miles in diameter. So now, what was your question again? Ivy.
Yes, sir.
Your question was? Well, let me say, from these violent impacts on Earth, that would have been enough explosive power to shatter any planet. And the elders knew this on the Biru, and they enacted the tetrahedron science with a form of magnetism that caused the four winds to hold the earth together so it wouldn't explode until such time as the 144,000 were raised and had the seal in their foreheads. The only thing holding back the four winds is you all that are being raised by us right now. Behold, I looked at Mount Zion, and there stood a Lamb, and with him 144,000, with their father's name written in their foreheads. That's what's holding back the destruction of the planet Earth. And you can tell by the weather events that they're letting it up off the hammer a little bit at a time, so that release of the four winds is very imminent. In other words, the time is at hand. Tick-tock. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And there are very large crafts that circumambulate the Earth that enact this tetrahedron science. These crafts are so large, you should be able to see them with the unaided eye. But you can't see them because just like a car, when you're driving down the highway and you look in your rearview mirror before you change lanes, you have to look in the mirror to see if there's oncoming traffic. But you're always cautioned about what they call a blind spot, where that you can miss an oncoming car. There's a blind spot, always. Yeah, and these crafts are in the blind spot, or what we call the Lagrange point. The Lagrange point is the blind spot, so that you would think you can see these large crafts with the unaided eye, but you can't see them because they are always in the Lagrange point. But when I say large crafts, they're larger than Ganawa or Africa. I mean big, giant crafts. That's the four winds that are holding the earth together until the time that you are all raised and shift to a higher dimension, like in Vesica Pisces, into the new heaven and the new earth. And you'll be able to watch the former things pass away. All right? Any more questions?
Why is that?
I have one more.
Yes, I have a question.
Can you speak up a lot louder, please, sister?
Yes, I have a question. So the four winds, are they craft?
I'm sorry?
Are the four winds craft?
Are they far?
Ships. Are they ships? Are they craft?
Yes, they're crafts.
Craft.
Right.
Yeah.
And Revelations refers to them as angels, yes.
Okay. Also, I wanted to ask you, you said about the rule of the pharaohs. Were they also grazed as pharaohs? Or
Grazed? Were they grazed? You mean the Egyptians?
Yeah.
No, they weren't. Because grays were like an extraterrestrial biological entity that was created by the draconian species as slaves or servants. For example, when they go to different planets or atmospheres, they send them down like robotoids to check the soil and water and atmospheric conditions to make sure it's conducive to their species before they enter that atmosphere. No, it wasn't the grades that were involved in that project. But
why I was asking is said that some rulership, there was some draconian ruling, the one with the long cone-headed or the
that's actually Annunaki skulls. You know.
Are they human?
No, they're not. Yeah, they're reptilian. And I've met them on the Bureau in person, of course. But if you look at Ancient Aliens to show, they frequently show those skulls. Right? Mm-hmm. And those are the T-rule skulls that you find of the people in the center of the earth as well. But one time I was taken to Nibiru, and while I was on it, I was sitting on a little couch, a partition by a port window on my left. And I saw bright lights behind me, and I knew when I turned around it was my mother at a medical facility, and she was very young and vibrant, with a black nurse standing on her right-hand side with her back turned to me. That was a little heavy and obviously Nubian, and I was really happy about that. And turned back and I started describing Nibiru as an ascension craft to this being sitting on my right in the dark. And when I kept saying that it was part minerals and electric wire and, you know, all these different things, and that Nibiru also has a soul. So it's a very complex craft. The being on my right in the dark that had a long head like that kept saying, yeah, with his head bouncing up and down, all excited, yeah. Like he was glad to know that I was intelligent enough to understand what was happening. And when I started trying to beam in on him real closely to see exactly what he was, I ended up back at home in bed. But yeah, those beings are very real and they're not grays. Okay?
Yeah. There was some speculation as to who they were because they said when they examined it, the science was saying that it was not human, it was animal.
They're not human. And I tell you what's strange about that species is that very recently in a genetic structure on Earth, for example, when you watch sports like basketball, all of a sudden you see a lot of very dark brothers with long bald heads that you never saw before. These are descendants from them in two ways. Either they're very tall and they're closer to 9 ether because they don't have any hair. And of course, the extra elongated cranium. Another thing that's popped up in the human genome that's rare all of a sudden is people with green eyes. People with green eyes many times have a factor to their blood called Rh negative. The Rh negative factor is foreign to the human genome, and it just recently appeared in people. And then it's a non-human trait to the extent that they're not really, it's not healthy for them to mate and procreate with human beings because this Rh negative factor will attack the infant and destroy it. The only way they can give birth reasonably healthy is by a cocktail of injections from doctors that neutralizes the effect of this reptilian genome they have. And one example of Rh negative being is Marquis de Love. Or you can look on Facebook, and there's a group of draconian hybrids, brothers and sisters that descended from the fallen angels, and they have strange attributes. They can pop from one side of the room to the other, or you have some of them that their eyes light up red in the dark, or they have scales in their skin, or very, very negative and sharp, crude attitude, and they're, in essence, very hard to get along with demonic. Do you follow me?
So they are draconians, and also they haven't got.
Well, they're not. They're draconian hybrids.
Hybrids.
Yes, that means like they're chimeras. They're part. They have that. They're part. Annunaki, like that.
Yeah, I thought some of them were the reptilian humanoids, and some were hybrids.
That's right.
Yeah.
I'm also a hybrid.
Why they come? Are you? Oh.
Yes, I am a hybrid.
Is that why they? Okay.
I'm a hybrid. In many ways, I'm also part Riskian, predominantly. That's why I have the ability to heal people at a distance, or make contact with you through the ether. Or people that have been around me for a long time know that there's a light that used to flash dominantly in my left eye, a bright light. And when they're around me, that light starts flashing in their eye very bright, in the corner of their eye, like a 1930s newspaper camera that used to flash with that bulb, and there's a suction and a warmth behind it. What that light actually is your inner spiritual being trying to get out of your body. Right? Or that I do things like make mind links and read people's mind, answer questions for them before they can verbalize them, or move stars, for example, or give them the ability to do the same. These are all factual proofs of the fact that I am a chimera, a hybrid. Are you following me?
Yeah, because
I have earthly parents, and I have star parents in the form of the angel Gabriel, the one that you all call Gabriel. Go ahead.
Is that why that's why they can't, their blood can't be cloned? Or is it because it's,
their what can't be closed?
They can't be cloned. They can't.
No, actually, we have 9 clones, and you mortals have 7 clones, but all of us have clones.
Yeah, I do understand that.
Yeah.
So it can be cloned. The RH negative can be cloned or is it because it's so rare they can't really use it because of the lack of protein for certain nuclear.
We all have clones. We all have clones, right?
So they can be cloned.
And they can be. We have clones already. And the purpose of clones is they're identical beings, not twins, but closer than that. And I mean this, that if identical twins, one of them have an accident and give the other one of his kidneys, they still have to take antibiotics in order to keep that body from rejecting the alien organ from an identical twin. But if there's an organ transplant from your clone, you don't need antibiotics because the clone is you. An anatomical copy, like in the sheep Dottie, when they removed the cell from her udder and grew it up into a sheep just like Dottie in all his physical properties and attributes, size, and age. You couldn't tell it apart from Dottie once it matured. Right? And all of you have clones. They're on standby in the event that you have an unfortunate accident, for example, in a car, and you lose a vital organ. We can replace that organ, take it from one of your clones. The reason why this system is so deep, we have so many beings on the bench in reserve, is because you all are that important to the success of this mission, and we have to make sure that your body survives in order to carry your soul across the gap for the dimensional shift, which is in reality merely a shift in consciousness. All right?
Thank you.
I love you. Now, speaking of these Anunnaki, I want to get back to the Book of Enki. If somebody can tell me what page we left off on. 7? I'm told by Hotep it's page 7. Huh? Okay.
Which tablet is that?
It's not the Holy Tablets. It's, write it down. I sent you the PDF from the Lost Book of Enki. Write it down. You can Google it right now. The Lost Book of Enki by Zachariah Sitchin. PDF. And you can get a PDF download right now, okay? You hear me, sister?
Yeah, I've got it anyway. Yeah.
Okay, you got the one that I sent you a long time ago?
Yep.
Very good. Very good. All right, we're in the introduction on page 7. Now, at the top of the page, though the firstborn of Anunnaki, he was not destined to be his father's successor, talking about Enki, on the throne of Nibiru, because that was given to his brother Enlil. He was not destined to be his father's successor on the throne of Nibiru. Complex rules of succession, which reflected the convoluted history of the Nuberians, gave that privilege to Enki's half-brother, who was younger, Enlil. In the effort to resolve the bitter conflict, both Enki and Enlil ended up on a mission to an alien planet, Earth, whose gold was needed to create a shield for preserving Nibiru's dwindling atmosphere. It was against that background, made even more complex by the presence on Earth of their half-sister, Nidhersag, the chief medical officer of the Anunnaki, that Enki decided to defy Enlil's plan to have mankind perish in the deluge, talking about Noah's flood. So Enki says he was against that. But you don't have the Lost Book of Enlil. The conflict started on between the two half-brothers, sons, even among their grandchildren. The fact that all of them, and especially those born on Earth, faced the loss of longevity that Nibiru's extended orbital period provided, added personal agonies and sharpened ambitions, right? Meaning that they separated the groups out from the Anunnaki born on Earth and those born on Nibiru. I'll give you some history. Any of you like me that were taken aboard, like Indubsar, the scribe, to the craft Nibiru, and were invited to eat and drink with the Nuberians, you automatically became immortal to live for what they describe as forever. You can see that through history when you look at the king's list in ancient Iraq or Sumeria, that the king's list of 43 kings, and many of them have tenure up to 2,500 years each. Like in the days where the prophets lived 989 years, like Methuselah, and so and so. But it gets shorter and shorter the longer you stay in Earth's dwindling atmosphere. It gets shorter. Now it's for a man to live but 120 years. But we live what you call forever. And I know I was on the bureau at just one time I can remember standing next to a very tall, one of these very dark, black, melanated beings. They're very thin and very tall. One of these reptilian beings. And he was staring out into space, and we were in looked like a medical facility or a sports facility. And he, without even looking down at me or turning to me, he kept saying, "We'll kill you, you know. We'll kill you, you know." And put it in my mind that, you know, and I got very mad, and I said, well, you perfect. You never did anything wrong, you know, because he was implying I thought it had to be a reason to him saying that. They always say that to me. And I got so excited about that, and I hate to say it, but I defecated on myself. And then I asked him where the facilities were, and he told me, and I went back there and, you know, cleaned myself completely and refreshing. And when I got back, the scene had changed, and we were in like a cafeteria environment, and it was like a smorgasbord. And so when I got my plate and got the things I want on it, I went to pay for it. He was there at the food serving, and so I finally said to him, "Oh, you everywhere, you everybody, huh?" Then when I finally sit down to eat, and I remember for sure there was a triangle piece of fish on my plate, and there was a sister, a kind of heavy sister, sitting next to me on my right, and a very young boy, Nubian boy, light brown-skinned Nubian boy, walked up to me. Looked like one of my sons that died in the fire when I was in my teens, Corey DeLon Jr. Anyway, he walked up to my plate and said, "Can I have some?" And I was going to say, "Sure, you can have some, son." But this sister next to me busted in and said, "Oh, go ahead, let the little guy have some." And I got real mad. I was thinking to myself, you think you had to tell me that to give a child something to eat? You know, but then I remembered where I was at, and I pulled it back in. By that time, the boy had broke off a piece of the fish, had it in his mouth, and was chewing it up with his jaw stuck out on one side like he had the mumps. Then, while I was talking to her, he reached in his mouth and pulled out that fish that was now in a ball and placed it back on my plate. And I looked at him, and I was real mad at him. I wanted to say, "You little son of a bitch, who raised you?" You know what I mean? But I woke up back in bed again. You know, but the point of the matter is that I do eat and drink with the Annunaki on the bureau. Are you following me? And that's why those of you that got the book or the DVD, Who is the Nawabian Christ? Amun, that I keep coming back. In other words, it's like I have eternal life, like Jack in the Box. I keep popping back up. Right? Did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
All right. Now let's go back. What verse are we on here? Okay. The conflict carried on between the two half-brothers, sons, even among their grandchildren. Like, me and Malachi have differences, like Cain and Abel and Esau and Jacob. The fact that all of them, and especially those born on earth, faced the loss of longevity that Nibiru's extended orbital period provided, added personal agonies, and sharpened ambitions. It all came to a climax in the last century of the third millennium BC, 3,000 years before Christ, when Marduk, that's Malachi, is his firstborn by his official spouse, claimed that he, and not Enlil's firstborn son, the inheritor, should inherit the earth. The bitter conflict that included a series of wars led in the end, mute your phone, stop fix your phone. There's distortion in the background that you hear. Don't do that. Mute your phone. That included a series of wars led in the end of the use of nuclear weapons. That's how all those ancient cities were overthrown. The ensuing, though unintended result, was the demise of the Sumerian civilization. Just like Sodom and Gomorrah or Pumapuku. The initiation of chosen individuals into the secrets of the gods. And you all that are chosen, the chosen few, I give to you, pass on the powers of healing and moving stars, etc. The initiation of chosen individuals into the secrets of the gods had marked the beginning of priesthood. The lineages of meditators between the gods and the people. The transmitters of the divine words to the mortal earthlings. Oracles, interpretations of divine utterances, were commingled with the observation of the heavens for omens, as like that sign of the fish in the sky, the star and crescent. And as prophecy began to play a role, indeed, the term to denote such spokesman of the gods who proclaimed what was to come, Nabi, that's a prophet, was the epithet for Marduk's firstborn son, Nabu, who had tried on behalf of his exiled father to convince mankind that the heavenly signs bespoke the coming supremacy of Marduk. And he was here, and he too could move stars. And he's still here, though incarcerated. These developments sharpen the realization that one must distinguish between fate and destiny. The proclamations of Enlil, his elder brother, sometimes even of Anu, their father, that used to be unquestioned, were now subjected to the scrutiny of the difference between Nam, a destiny, like the planetary orbits, whose course had been determined and was unchangeable, and Namtar, literally a destiny that could be bent, broken, changed, which was fate or Kwabar, right? Reviewing and recalling the sequence of events and the apparent parallelisms between what had happened on the Nibiru and what took place on Earth, Iki and Enlil began to ponder philosophically what indeed was destined and could not have been avoided, and what was just fated as a consequence of right or wrong decisions and free choice. The latter could not be predicted. The former could be foreseen, especially if all, as the planetary orbits, was cylindrical, if what was shall again be. What goes around comes around. Does history repeat itself? If the first things shall also be the last things. The climate event of the nuclear desolation sharpened soul searching among the leaders of the Annunaki and raised the need to explain the devastating human masses why it came to pass this way. You know, like the weather changes, floods and hurricanes. Was it destined, or was it just the result of an Anunnaki-made fate? Was anybody responsible? Is there someone accountable? In the councils of the Anunnaki, on the eve of the calamity, it was Enki who stood alone in opposition to the use of the forbidden weapons, they're called the flood. It was thus important for Enki to explain to the suffering remnants how that turning point in the saga of extraterrestrials had meant well, but ended as destroyers had come to pass. And who but Enki, who was the first to come and an eyewitness to it all, was most qualified to tell the past so that the future could be divined. And the best way to tell it all was a first-person report by Enki himself. That's this book here, The Lost Book of Enki. That he had recorded his autobiography is certain for a long text stretching over at least 12 tablets discovered in the library of Nippur. Quotes Enki as saying, when I approached Earth, there was much flooding. When I neared its green meadows, heaps and mounds were piled up at my command. In the pure place, I built my house. An appropriate time, I gave it. The long text continues to describe, and I met Enki as well, with Malachi. If you all want to know about that, let me know now before I go on. The long text, okay. Well, I was in the spirit. It was dark, and I was walking down the sidewalk, and I walked under a very large tree. And when I started coming out from under the shade of that tree, even in the dark, guided only by the moonlight from the moon and the stars, that reflected light borrowed from the sun, because these objects, celestial objects, are non-luminous. I saw Malachi on the sidewalk in front of me, standing up, facing me. As I walked, when I came out from under the branches of that tall tree, I just started stretching taller and taller, like I've done many times since then. Will you all bear witness to that?
Yes, I bear witness to it. He was standing right beside me one day, and I said to him, Amun, you look taller. He looked way, way taller, like almost to the ceiling. And I looked really, really short, like down by his waist somewhere.
Hotel, I bear witness to the same thing. You do
This
trick.
is I bear witness as well.
I love you. I know I was out there with a bad white bald-head ex-cop that was supposed to be repairing computers and messing them up all the time. I was trying to warn him that I'm not the one to play with, regardless what his police friends or whatever it is he was connected to told him. So I followed him outside in the dark one time after he got through doing his devilish work. And I proceeded to move stars for him all over the cosmos. One time I moved a star from one side of the atmosphere to the other. And I asked him, I said, how far you think I can move that star? He said, as far as you want to. I thought to myself, what fools these mortals be? You know I can do that, and you want to play with me? You cruising for death and hell. And he was standing by his car with his back to me, looking up, trying to do what I did. When he turned around, I had stretched probably 17 or 20 feet tall. And he looked up at me, and he was so shocked that he almost fell on the ground, but he fell back on my car, the hood of my car, a big white guy. And he just stared up at me crazy. Who can bear witness to that night?
Does that mean you can shape shift?
I was standing right next to him.
Hotep was out there, saw that. Now, does that mean I can shapeshift? Is that the question?
Yeah, that's what shape shifting.
Yes, I can. Yes, sister. I remember one specific incident. My eldest daughter, by Khadijah, this green-eyed devil woman I was with for many years, mulatto. My daughter was sitting in the chair visiting with my two grandchildren, and she was talking on the phone, and I asked her a question because I was going to take my son to a city called Dublin, Georgia, to pedal. And she looked at me and just turned around and ignored me. And I asked her 3 times to listen to me, and she's never been disrespectful like that. And I got so mad, I had my hand in the sink, the kitchen sink. And when I turned around and looked at my hand, it wasn't a hand anymore. And I could feel myself shifting. I could literally feel it. But it was a big, giant claw in the sink. And she turned around, and her eyes got so big out of fright. I ran to the bathroom to take my bath like every morning, and I did it hurriedly to come out to see if she was all right. But the chair she was in was empty. Her shoes were there. I had just bought a set of encyclopedias for my twin grandchildren. Everything was there, except her Cadillac. It was gone, and she was speeding back to New Orleans and wouldn't answer the phone. When I finally did get her on the phone, I said, Lethea, what happened? That's Lethea was Larry and Althea together. And she said, Daddy, you scared me. You turned into a big black monster. I said to her, I said, baby, you made Daddy mad. That's all I said. That's all I could say. But that's just one of the instances in which it happened. Okay? Any more questions? I know one time I could transform myself like Jesus as well. I was in here, me and Annunaki looking at TV because I had paid a guy to come over and repair the TV or install something in the room. And his wife called him up and told him that there was police outside in the parking lot, and they had Brother Hotep out there who had just went to the store in the car. And so I jumped up and got dressed and went outside to see about the brother and started talking to the police. And strangely, oddly enough, Hotep himself slipped out of that conversation and had walked back in the house and disappeared and left me out there when I came to save him. But anyway, the police, I guess he had his orders. He gave me a ticket, and I wasn't even driving. I know they wanted to lock me up for nothing. Everybody knew that. So when I was scheduled to go to court, I put on my suit and what have you, and I noticed that Annunaki and Hotep kept on commenting how good I was looking or how different or this, that, and the other, and I didn't really feel it. but I had transformed. If y'all can explain that. Anyway, while I was sitting with the rest of the people waiting to be seen to go in court, my court-appointed attorney, she came to me and took us to a little room on the side, and she kept staring at me as well, and she said she had talked to the judge, and that miraculously they had dropped the entire case, for which I was extremely happy. And if y'all could explain to them what y'all saw in me, if you can, that morning.
Yeah, Jesus had that same power to transform.
Oh yes.
When he said that
exactly.
He's correct. He definitely had transformed and looked quite different. And just quite unexplainable as well. But what he just relayed to you is absolute truth.
He looked young.
Yeah, he did look much younger. And everything did happen, like he said, miraculously. They were just so adamant about charging him, but when we got to court, it was nothing like that at all.
I know also one time I was sitting outside. Mute your phones. And I was teaching Annunaki in the dark. And she suddenly looked at me and said, Amun, you lit up. You lit up like a light, a bright light. And Hotep was inside. When he came out the house onto the screen porch, she asked him from where we were located, Hotep, look at Amun and tell me what you see. And he said through the screen porch, he lit up like a light. Right? Because I was lit up like Imam Isa visits Egypt, that picture, which is confirmed by some of the letters that I get from Father Babianun, where he ends them with, we are one. Let us shine, let us shine, let us shine. Another name for the Annunaki in Samaria are the shining ones. They call us that, the shining ones. And one time, I was teaching Annunaki, so I walked away from her in the dark, approached the screen porch, and I walked around the bush. I transformed into nothing but light, multicolored lights. And I was scared to step. It was like the first time I met Malachi in the flesh in 81 in Brooklyn. When I went in that room and it turned to light, and I didn't know where I was at. I kept asking the Anukas, trying to keep my balance. Where am I? Am I standing up? Where am I? She said, she thought I was joking, but I wasn't. I was here, but I wasn't here. I was just these lights like in the holy tablets. When Gabriel was directed by Ahmed, that if he couldn't see the Most High, he should go to him. And when Gabriel went up into the heavens to commune with the Most High told him, said, look into this light. What do you see? And as the veils of light opened up, the green and blue lights and all these different rays, Gabriel sensed some movement inside that light. And the Most High Creator, El-Hayu, the life giver, asked him, did you see that, Gabriel? Did you see what that was? Did you see who that is? I am who I am. That's Heya Asa Heya. I am who I am. Like in the scriptures when it says, tell them I am sent you. And he was, this I am that was speaking as part of Al-Hayu, the life giver, said that the one here that Gabriel was looking at and the one there here on the phone with you all are not two, but one. That's why Jesus would say, when you see me, you see the Father, or I and my Father are one. So when you look deep into that light of Al-Hayu, you see three Mims: Ahmed in birth, Muhammad in prophecy, and Mahmud in the end. These are all different times that I incarnated on earth in physical form. Or it's stated in the scriptures that I'm his word made flesh to dwell among men. As he says in the holy tablets, he speaks to his people through this light. Sometimes he speaks his words. Sometimes I speak my words. And sometimes we speak our words. But I am his word made flesh to dwell among men. You can connect the dots by listening to True Light tapes by Panabab Yanun, such as Be Prepared for the Return of Christ, where he says that wherever I am is Jerusalem, house of flesh, because the Messiah dwells there, and you'll always see stellar signs in the sky above me, my dwelling. In the same way that there was a star above the manger with the Christ child back in ancient Egypt. Okay? That's how they would know where I am. Another one of my miracles is that there are always Black Hawk helicopters and small aircraft that fly over our house. And with my mind, I create a barrier that goes in a circle from inside me all the way out, that goes into the cockpit of these crafts and starts the instruments to smoke and the craft shaking and little fires breaking out. And then with my mind, I turn them away in a different direction to aim them at some of the people that sent them. You understand? And so they don't fly over our house. You'll notice that if you visit me, you don't ever hear those helicopters or airplanes going over the house directly. And I taught Annunaki how to do it too. I can't transfer these abilities to people, but I am who I am. I am sent me. But what?
So you saying you're Ethereum?
Huh?
Messiah, you're Ethereum.
Am I Syrian?
Ethereum.
Yes, I am. I am an Ethereum, but I'm a Riskian. Because one of the characteristics of Riskians is that we can spiral down to a physical mortal being, or we can spiral up all the way to an Ethereum again, okay?
Yeah, I was reading that.
Yes, it's true. So when I'm a light being, I'm an Ethereum. But when you can see me and shake my hand, I have spiraled down to a mortal being. All right. And I know this sounds strange to many people, but if you stay around me long enough, you find out that what I'm saying is true, plus much, much more. Just like I'm coming to people at night. If you don't remember, you need to get sharper in your spiritual self. All right. What's your spiritual key? Numerous other texts that relate varied aspects of Enki's role in the ensuing developments serve to complete Enki's tale. They include a cosmogony in an epic of creation, at whose core lay Enki's own text, which scholars call the Eridu Genesis. They include detailed descriptions of the female came to Enki in his city, Eridu. That means a home away from home, to obtain from him the me. It's a kind of a data disk that encoded all aspects of civilization. Now you can study this by doing a YouTube search about these stones that they found in caves in China and all over the world. These discs look like a record disc with a notch in it. Right? And what's strange is that NASA took some photos out in space, and you can see spiritual duplicates of these stones floating around in space. They have on them inscribed all the knowledge of existence. They call them Dropa stones. Look it up. The Dropa stones. We call them the me. I'm here today in this time to connect all the dots for you all, to make sure you know who and what you are, where you at, and what time it is, and how, if you follow my instructions and have patience with me, you can learn to snatch away from a visible oncoming flame. But unfortunately, like many of you, Moses, who wanted to follow Melchizedek in the tablets, Melchizedek told him that he didn't have the patience to walk with him. And he said, yes, I do. I can walk with you. I have patience. And one of the first tests was they were in a village, and the warring horde was canoeing down that river towards that village where these people's livelihood was fishing. And they were fishermen, how they lived, and Melchizedek ran out and punched a small hole in the bottom of all their boats, and they sunk to the bottom of the river. And Moses couldn't take it. He said, why you sink all their boats, and you know that these people can't live without that? He said, I told you don't have patience to walk with me. You think you know what I'm doing and who I am, but you don't. And after that warring horde had passed by and didn't do any damage, then Melchizedek taught the village elders how to go out and pull the ships up out the bottom of the water and plug the hole, and everything was back normal. But one time he was walking with Melchizedek. They knocked on the door, and a little boy answered. And Melchizedek broke the little boy's neck and killed him. And Moses lost his mind. He said, you wrong. Why'd you do that? He said, I told you you don't have the patience to follow me. He said, that little boy was a devil. And he had a sister. And he was poisoned and influenced his sister and his mother and father, so that eventually all four of them were going to go to hell. But I took his life in his youth, and as you know, children go to heaven automatically. And without his evil presence, the rest of the people in the house are going to naturally go to heaven as well. So by killing him, I saved all four of them. Oh, I got patience. I'm sorry. I see it now. I got it. Yeah. He begged her, and he said, look, I'll give you one more turn. And then when they were walking out the city, they hadn't eaten for days, and they were famished. But Melchizedek saw a wall that was falling down, and he stopped, rolled up his sleeves, and started rebuilding that wall. And Moses pitched in to help him. He said, Moses, shouldn't we be going to the doors and asking these people for some meat and bread for doing this work and all this? Why are we going out our way to build up a broken down wall instead of getting something to eat? And Melchizedek told him that a long time ago, that in holy war jihad, the Prophet Muhammad was at war, and one of his Sahaba, or companions, you call disciples, was martyred or killed in that battle. And it was their tradition at that time that when any man died in war, that the Prophet would take on the responsibility of providing for his widow and children. And that man, before he left for war, he had took all of his earthly possessions and his great wealth, which was considerable, dug a hole and built that wall over it, so that if anything happened to him, his sons could uncover his treasure and provide for themselves and their mother. Then Moses heard that he understood. But look, I'm not getting through this introduction very well, and I apologize for that. But right now it's time for us to go out and perform miracles. So wherever you are, let's start with London, England. Need you to go outside and perform miracles right now. In the name of Amun-Rayay. What do you have in London, Ann, in the sky? Zarbi, what do you have in Texas?
I'm going out there right now.
Khufu, what do you have in Florida?
No, I'm checking right now.
All right.
I got the moon. I just got the moon only, and it's cloudy, I guess.
Yeah, it's cloudy in England.
Oh, I got one. I got a star. I got a bright star above me. It's cloudy,
okay.
But
all right. What are you gonna do with that star?
I want to move it up.
Okay.
It's moving.
Which way? Okay, thank you for describing what you see. What else?
Let's drop it down in the name of Amun. All right, it's moving. Tawakum, Messiah. Appreciate it.
I love you. All right. Who's going to be next?
I will.
Okay. What do you see in Texas, Ivory?
This bright star I see above my head?
Okay. I see it. What are you going to do with it? And I'm in my room in the dark with my eyes closed. The people that come to visit me will testify to you tonight. Is that true?
I bear witness.
I love you. All right. What are you going to do with it, Ivory?
In the name of Amun-Rayay, the Messiah, makes the star go counterclockwise. It's moving.
Which way is it moving?
Counterclockwise. Small circles.
Yeah. I made a mistake of doing it clockwise. I'm sorry. You agree?
Baby circles. Yes, sir.
All right. All right.
And then
Hotep, what do you see outside?
how what?
I love you. Hotep. Can you hear me, Hotep?
Yes, I can hear you.
What do you see?
Oh, it's cloud coming.
Okay. You want to move the clouds?
Yes.
Move all clouds, move to the left. Name of Amun-Rayay.
It's moving.
I love you. I know they're moving hotels because Ann can see it in England.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's moving.
Yes, it is. I love you. Another one of the things I do when I'm standing outside and I'm moving stars is that there's a wind that comes around me, orbits around me, it blows leaves around the circle in the fall, etc., and paper in the summer and things. But that's actually my own energy. And I give you DVDs by a woman named Allison Cole. And she describes that through...
Yeah, I had experience of that as well, where it was summer, it's nothing, no wind, and all of a sudden there's this draft that blew everything, you know. I was wondering where it was coming from.
It's coming from you. It's your own energy. And when I walk, especially in the summertime, my footprints light up in green or blue outline. Yeah.
Yes,
so,
I do.
I love you, and thank you all for being witness out of Texas for that as a personal eyewitness. I love you all, and I'm glad to be here with you. Come in, even though unfortunately, like Davina Love says, I love niggas, I really do, but there's a love-hate relationship. Sometimes you can't stand niggas. Why can't they just come up? Come up, up, up. Niggas be so crazy and stupid and act like they don't want to stand and just be negative and all that. For what? For what? I love you all. Come on, I want to tell you personally, I don't know how much you care, but we need your donations desperately because it's tax season and they done doubled up on all the taxes. So we overwhelmed financially. And we need as much support as you can send us, and we need it right now. Whoever's listening, go ahead.
I will have a tracking number for you tomorrow. Western Union
I love
is always
you.
down. Yeah.
All right. I love you, and I appreciate you in advance. I hope you learn it.
Thank you.
We are one love. I love you. And I love all the Ansar, all the helpers. But I can say my bad, inshallah. I'll see you later if the Most High wills. Meet affinity. Amun-Rayay. Asa. Peace.